Hello, hello, beautiful soul. Well done on completing lesson one of this course, and welcome to lesson two. Now, in lesson two, I'm going to share with you on the 7 levels of business consciousness, and I'll share with you practical strategies to help you level up your business from one level of consciousness to the next until it reaches its full maturity and it arrives at the highest level of consciousness that it can exist in. Now, this level of consciousness is based on a model or a framework by Richard Barrett. You can research his work on the Barrett's Value Center. This is where I've based this discussion and this session on. But I've just now added my own experience and my own application of this model, both in the corporate space as well as in my own businesses. Now, the level of consciousness that he describes are level of consciousness that exists at an individual level, as well as at an organizational level and societal level. So basically the institutions that we form or the organizations that we form, whether it's a business organization or a non-profit organization or even community organizations that we form, all of those organizations carry or have a consciousness, and what makes them or informs their level of consciousness is then the leaders of those organizations or the people that are working in those organizations or are a part of those organizations. So really our organizations are an extension of our own individual level of consciousness. But for the purpose of this section, I'm not going to talk about or focus on societal consciousness or consciousness at a community level. I'm purely focusing on individual consciousness as well as the consciousness of your business, the business that you are a pioneer of, or a business that you are leading as someone that is employed in that business. So these levels of consciousness must also be understood as a staircase. Okay, it's a staircase of growth where an organization moves from one level to the other until it reaches its full stature of maturity when it has attained mastery of all levels. So as I'm speaking and I'm going through the levels with you, don't ever think that the level 1 or the first level is less significant than level 7. Think of it as a staircase in a sense that you are ascending and you're moving to higher levels of the staircase, all right? And so as you are moving to the higher levels of the staircase, you are not necessarily neglecting or negating the initial steps that were necessary to get you to the highest or the higher levels, all right? So look at it holistically, that it's growth, it's a staircase, and for you to get to a level 7 of consciousness, you need to have mastered the other levels, but you are not letting go of them or suddenly negating them. You need all 7 levels to be a fully functional human being as well as a fully functional business. Okay, it's not an either or, all right? So I always like to think of these levels as, parenthood. When I give birth to my child and I nurture them and grow them, once they are an adult, by virtue of them being an adult, doesn't necessarily mean that they can just negate the input that I gave into their lives or negate the nurturing and the growth that I gave. We are not mutually exclusive. They are a part of me and I'm a part of them. I contributed to where they are. Do you understand? So it's not that once they're an adult they can say, okay, I don't need this parent anymore because I'm now an adult. No, all right? So look at it as a comprehensive integrated staircase, right? So they're not mutually exclusive. They build on each other. All right. So when organizations that reach the seventh level of consciousness have reached that, they are what we call mature or mature organizations that have reached their full stature. Okay, these kind of organizations that have reached the highest stature of the organization of consciousness, what I call spiritual businesses, and they conduct business in a very holistic manner that is not only concerned with the survival of the organization, the financial viability, or the fact that the business has to make profit. They realize that an important reason to exist, but there is more to existing as a business than just financial viability or than just making profit. Okay, so they now espouse and embrace higher purpose and higher meaning for existing, which is about serving humanity. Right, and so these level 7 organizations or spiritual organizations, they serve a higher purpose. They conduct their business in an ethical manner. They're full of integrity, and the products that they create are created with higher goals, with higher ideals for humanity, with a view to serving humanity and having a positive impact on humanity. So you will see that they will emphasize excellence, service excellence, quality of their products, etc. And they just have a general positive and holistic approach to their businesses. I earlier on in the course referred to them as corporate citizens. Let's talk about level 1. Let's move into the consciousness levels themselves, and let's start with level 1 consciousness. This level 1 consciousness is called the level of survival. So at this level, businesses are concerned with their financial viability. Okay, they need to make profits, they need to make money, they need to generate revenue, they need to create sales, right? They need to sell the products and services and make money. And it's also the companies would also be typically involved with the basic health and security needs of their employees. This is where issues of health and safety come in. Let's make sure that the employees that are working for us are medically fit and they're healthy to work for the organization, because healthy employees means a healthy workforce, and a healthy workforce means more profit because there's less absenteeism and things like that, right? Which is a very good level of consciousness, because that's for you to even call yourself a business person, to say you are in business, you need to make profit, you need to make money. Otherwise, you might as well open an NGO and just give your services at no cost. However, at every level of consciousness, there is what we call a blockage, and a blockage is what is caused by holding on to limiting beliefs. Holding on to beliefs that are not serving us in terms of moving us to the next level. So these are limiting beliefs that are typically fear-based. And at this level of survival, when leaders hold a fear-based belief that they don't have enough, if a leader themselves as a person, they have a blockage at this level and they feel that they're not enough, or they feel that there's not enough for everyone. So they have a scarcity mentality that we discussed earlier on. Then it affects and influences the tone of their leadership. Because when you lead from a scarcity mentality, you exercise extreme control over the resources that you have, extreme control over the people that you have. You micromanage. Every cent must be accounted for. Every minute that people are working must be accounted for. Because you have this sense that there isn't enough. Let's move. And so there is that pressure, immense pressure that these kind of leaders tend to put on the employees that they work for. People cannot even breathe, under these circumstances. That's where even leadership styles that are exploitative, where people are really working people to the bone. Your employees cannot take a break. They're working extremely long hours. Some people would even lock people up in factories. Okay? Some people lock people up in factories and make them work 24/7. Right? So they're just seeing these people and these human beings that are working for them literally as agents of money. Just make money for us, churn more money for us, and your health, your well-being, it's not really that important. That's the extreme that it can actually go to. Sometimes elements of greed creep in here. Remember, I shared to you how a mentality of lack introduces concepts around or even strategies that are competitive, that are like, collusion, people that are colluding with each other, price collusions, and they're colluding to say, let's keep the price at this amount so that all the other players will not find it sustainable to make money at that amount, and then you exit them out of the system in that way, or out of the market. Those are all strategies that are fueled by a mindset of lack, by a mindset that says there isn't enough to go around for everyone, right? So here's what needs to happen for an organization that is stuck at this level to transcend to the next level. So for an individual or a business to transition to the next level, they need to embrace a mindset of abundance. We mentioned this earlier on. They need to embrace a mindset of abundance and know that there are abundant opportunities and resources for everyone to go around. And there's lots that needs to be discovered and more that can be explored. So they need to move from having a scarcity mindset to an expansive mindset that will, because once you're in an expansive mindset and mode of thinking, you view the world with a lens of opportunity, a lens of there is so much that we can explore out there, and you're not constricted in the way you view things. You don't have the scarcity mentality that I only have this much time or these much resources, and therefore if I don't use it up or exploit it, then I'm not going to make enough money. So that is the mindset shift and change that needs to happen. And as an entrepreneur or a business owner, it's also very important that when you are pricing your products and services, you price them in a way that it's appropriate to ensure that you run a profitable business, right? We know that. However, your personal energy as a founder of this business is definitely felt by the people that you are serving, and it's reflected in the business, right? So if you have and you hold as a business owner the scarcity mentality, this energy is felt by the people that you are serving. It finds a way of permeating through products and services that you're selling, etc. All right, it's a kind of a desperate energy, and I'll give you some examples of some of the ways in which you can see this negative energy of lack, this negative energy of scarcity, this negative energy that shows you that there's a blockage at this level of consciousness, the survival level. So some of the ways in which it can manifest itself is desperation, where someone is literally begging you, buy my product, please, at any cost, just buy. You sense that desperation in the products, right? In the way that the sales speeches and the sales pitches and the way that things are sold, right? Also, you can see it manifests in the form of false or even exaggerated advertising. I think you've seen some of that. I certainly have, where you even see people posting false testimonials. People who are in the health and fitness space or the health and fitness industry, you will attest to this. You've often seen how sometimes in certain adverts, people will have to go to the extent of writing on the, let's say, the before and after picture, that this is the result of using this product. Because that has apparently come about because people are using other people's pictures of transformation from before to after, and then lying and posing those pictures as if they are the result of using their products and services. So those kind of things are just clear signs of of manipulation, of desperation, of lies. Feeling that what, I gotta do all it takes to get the product out of there, even if it means lying and selling a lie to people through false advertising and false testimonials. Also manipulation, instilling guilt or fear in potential clients in order to coax them to buy. How many of you have experienced that kind of sales pitch where someone is making you feel guilty and almost like manipulate your fear to give you like a fear of missing out? If you don't use my product, therefore you're going to be out, you're going to be you're missing out, kind of thing. So all of those are just tactics to manipulate you into buying this product, and it's used in a very coercive way, whether subtly or overtly, but it's coercive. So watch out for these kind of marketing strategies in your own business. Make sure you are not marketing your business from these scarcity-based, fear-based mentality or consciousness. Okay, so I shared with you the first strategy of how to move from that mindset, embrace an abundance mindset. The second strategy to exit this level of survival consciousness is to practice generosity. Yes, practice generosity, practice giving to others. And you can, do this in many forms. As a Christian, who believes in the principle of sowing and reaping, who believes in the principles of tithing, you definitely want to apply those principles. You want to make sure you're running your business that is tithing 10% of its profits, either to an NGO of your choice that runs causes that are very dear to you as an individual or as a business, or you could even tithe to a church that you are a part of or a member of. Or another way is you can just then open your own NGO where you then periodically then give 10% of your profits, the profits of your business into an NGO. Then your NGO will then decide on which causes it wants to fund, right? So that's another option you have. Another way of giving is just to find people that are in need or courses that are in need, programs and charity organizations that you want to give to. So you can give as an individual, you can give as a business, right? Those are the ways you can give. So when you practice generosity and you give, you are unlocking a very powerful spiritual principle, because generosity unlocks provision. Generosity unlocks provision in our lives. When we are giving organizations, when we are giving individuals, it unlocks the flow of more into our lives. Jim Rohn, I like how he puts it. He says, only by giving are you able to receive more than you already have. So it is in giving that we receive. It is in giving that we receive. So, however, I have to give you a word of caution at this point that whilst it's very well and good to give, because it unlocks the flow in your life, make sure you avoid the trap of overgiving. Make sure you avoid the trap of overgiving and undervaluing your products and services, because sometimes when you give too much of your products and services, its perceived value can tend to decrease in the eyes of your targeted clients, because some of them will wonder why they have to pay for something that they're already getting so much of freely. So if you give let's say you're a coach and you give your entire content to people without necessarily charging, then there isn't any motive for them to come for more, because you have already made your services available in the entirety, in a free platform. So it's very well and good to give bits and pieces and aspects of your products and services at no cost. It really, really is good, because that's the way people are going to get a taste of your work. They're going to get a sense of who you are and the sense of your services. It's very good. It's just a matter of balancing the amount that of value that you give at no cost versus that which people can still buy. Right, let's move on to the second level of consciousness, which is relationship. Now, at this level of consciousness, the organization or business is focused on building positive relationships with its employees, with the clients and stakeholders that it does business with, right? And so trust and connection becomes a very important aspect of this level of consciousness. So a business is saying, look, I'm moving from a level of consciousness of 1 where I'm just about money, etc., but I realize that I need to build and forge good relationships, good trust-based relationships with those that I'm serving and with my stakeholders, right? And so trust then becomes the center of this level of consciousness, and it needs to practically manifest in how you conduct your business. It manifests in your communication with your employees. There's that open communication where leaders can just openly communicate honestly what is happening with the business, where the business is struggling, etc., and even receive input from employees. So it is a vulnerability based communication. Vulnerability. So where you communicate authentically and you communicate in a vulnerable way, where there are areas of challenge that you're experiencing, you communicate so openly. And once you open and you connect with your clients at this level of authenticity, right? Where you're not trying to portray any false picture of that you have arrived, everything is well. That is when people are able to connect with you. It is said, research has shown that people connect with people that are, that are showing their vulnerabilities, showing their fears, showing their doubts, showing their struggles, and sharing their journeys, etc. Not people that are portraying the image that they have arrived, and nothing is out of place, with them. So what this level of communication then does is it creates two things. It creates a sense of organizational family. It creates a sense of mutual respect. It creates a tribe, where people feel that they belong. So relationships are very important because they create in us a sense of belonging. Like, I'm not alone. I belong to like-minded people. I belong to a group of people that understand me, that feel me, that vibe with me. Right. So as an entrepreneur, make sure that you intentionally engage with your clients to connect with them, and for you to connect with them, you need to open yourself up, and reach out to them in that intentional way. Find ways to connect with them in real ways. And there are tremendous values to this. One of the value of communicating openly and authentically with your clients is that you get to understand their needs at a much deeper level. And when you do, you are then able to craft your products and services such that they speak to addressing those needs and services. Okay, so you then address their pain points from their perspective, not from what you think they're needing from you, but you have taken time to have connection calls with them, have connection sessions with them, where you just want to talk to them to understand what makes them tick, what are their struggles. So go out there, have those calls with your clients, and understand what makes them tick. If it's surveys that work for you to speak to them and to understand what makes them tick, do surveys. If it's connection calls, if it's smaller gatherings where you can meet with them and really connect with them, do those, right? So it enables you to build, loyalty, to build a sense of belonging, and yeah, like I said, you're able to build that tribe and family, a sense of being, a sense of of community with them, right? So let's go now to you as an entrepreneur, or a professional that is working for an organization. How can you use level 2, or activate the level 2 of consciousness appropriately in your organization? So as a leader, you you have a platform as a leader to influence. Well, your platform is not as extensive as that one of someone who's already owning their own business, because they have executive authority to decide what they can do and what goes and what doesn't go. So however, you as a leader will have a unit of people or a team of people that you are leading, and so you then need to set the temperature and the climate for real connection with that team that you are leading. Just set the climate of trust, the climate of connection, the climate of vulnerability based trust. Okay, so I could tell you how to do it, in which I am going to, but I want to show you what happens in an organization that doesn't have this vulnerability based trust, that doesn't have this level of connection and trust that you can create as a leader. Organizations like that, where there's lack of trust, how does lack of trust manifest in these organizations and in these workplaces? It's typically organizations that have a blame shame environment, blaming and shaming. So in these organizations, leaders tend to focus their energies on finding fault when something goes wrong, and finding someone to blame. Who do we have to blame for this? And let's blame them in a public way so that we shame them, and then we make everybody else know that if you do this kind of behavior, you are going to be shamed in the meetings, etc., etc. You know what I mean? So that typically is how this lack of trust, manifests. So environments that are devoid of trust, they tend to be filled then with a fear based or defensive kind of mentality, which where everybody is, like protecting themselves, protecting their turf, because nobody wants to be shamed, nobody wants to be blamed in public, etc., and then their errors, discussed in public meetings. So instead of us being productive and creative and thinking of how do we learn from mistakes, people hide mistakes. People will even shift and blame somebody else, for the mistake, instead of owning up to it, because they know if they own up to it, they're going to be attacked, they're going to be blamed. So my appeal to you as a leader who wants to move your team to the next level of consciousness is refrain from finding faults in your team. Rather have the mentality that says what went wrong. So look at what went wrong and how can we improve it, what lessons can we learn from it, and how do we improve it. Don't focus the energy so much on who did it. Focus the energy on what went wrong, why did it go wrong, and how do we make sure it doesn't happen again. And then those lessons are shared with the whole team, so that you become then a learning organization that learns from its own system, from the mistakes of its own system, instead of pointing blames at an individual. Yeah. So that's how you then so you then you use an opportunity of a mistake as a learning opportunity to say, right, this mistake has happened, is unacceptable, this is not how we want to run business, the consequences are 1, 2, 3. However, what can we learn from this? This is the teachable moment right here. What do we learn? What shouldn't we have done? You know what I mean? So you take that expansive mentality. So no mistake or fear should ever be wasted in your team. Make sure you harvest every mistake for all the lessons, the golden lessons that it can give you. All right. Then still on this level too of relationship, an environment that is devoid of trust tends to also be competitive instead of cooperative. Okay. And you'll understand that it's very difficult for people to be cooperative if they're in this environment where they're always being compared with each other, and there's always this competition, right? Because how do you then collaborate in an environment where the very people you are collaborating with are going to are competing with you? So you might not even share information with them in that space, because you're thinking, if I share information with this one, they're going to look good and they're going to win this subtle competition that is the underlying tone of this organization. So make sure that you create an environment of trust, create an environment where team success is celebrated, right? And then you need to recognize openly in your team meetings, openly recognize team effort, openly recognize collaboration, right, in your team meetings, and make teamwork and cooperation the aspired norm. People need to know that, wow, if we collaborate, if we work as a team, that's it. That's what is celebrated. That is what is embraced in this organization. All right. But also in the same way, correct and even discipline uncooperative behavior, right? That breaks teamwork, that incites competition, etc., etc. Because this will make it clear that uncooperative competitive behavior is not accepted in this organization or in this team. All right. So another thing that we see happens when there's in this an environment that lacks trust, right, is that it also affects creativity, the level of creativity and innovation in that team. And so creativity and innovation thrives in a trust-based workplace. So for creativity and innovation to flow, there needs to be that foundation of trust, okay, where team members can feel that there is psychological safety for them to voice their views, voice their opinion without fear of being ridiculed, without fear of criticism, without fear of competition from others, right? Breakthrough ideas are usually a product of one idea building on another, right? So when we do that, when we create those spaces where somebody can share and voice their opinion, unapologetically, without fear, etc. And then they know that even if that suggestion is debated, it is not done with a view to put them down. It's not done with a view to compete with them and show them that they're less of a thinker, but that it is done with a view to advance the thinking in the room, to advance the thinking in the room around that subject, and therefore to come up with higher solutions and higher innovations and creative ideas that would not have been arrived at if it was just one person alone in the meeting voicing their opinion and everybody else just saying yes, yes, yes to that. So let's create a space that encourages that culture of thinking together, right? I call it thinking together. And an action that I've given you there in the your guide is that as a leader, create meetings and spaces that you call thinking together meetings. You schedule a time, a safe space to generate ideas as you think together as a group. And in those meetings, you agree beforehand on one or two problems that you want to solve and tackle as a thinking together team, right? And then during the meeting, you send ground rules. Guys, we're going to think together. We know there's no wrong or right answer. We're going to build up on each other's thinking. We're going to build up on each other's thoughts. Feel free to voice any opinion, voice any idea. And so we are all about wanting to create a collective solution that is a win-win and will be, accepted by all. So it's all about co-creating a solution that builds on and takes on the strengths of all the suggested ideas. It builds onto them instead of discarding. It just builds onto it, right? Your idea was not necessarily entirely true, but there's value in this. Let's see how we can develop that further. In that co-thinking together and co-creation, beautiful, novel ideas come through because we're thinking as a system. We're not thinking individually as people that are wanting to compete with each other. We are thinking as a collective. We are thinking as a system. And so as a manager, your role, and one of the ground rules you need to set there, is to make sure that you balance the opinions, that there isn't one or two people that are dominating the discussion. So it must be facilitated. Everybody around the table or the virtual room needs to have an opportunity to say what they want to say, right? Everyone needs to give an input, and then we collectively arrive at a collective solution to the problem, right? So I've said there in your guide on the leader action, at the end of the meeting, you then go around the room after you've had this discussion, and then you make sure that everybody has their final contribution, and they give their reflection points on this on the process. What worked well, what can be improved on in the future. So make sure all the voices are heard in that thinking together meeting. Now let's move on to the self-esteem consciousness level. So after this level, the self-esteem consciousness level, I will stop the video. I'll end this clip, and then because I really want to give you time to synthesize these three levels, and then we'll move on to level 4, 5, 6, and 7 in the next video, the next clip. So moving on to level 3 of consciousness, which is the self-esteem level. So at the self-esteem level, the organization or business focuses on creating high-performance systems and processes that will ensure high productivity, operational efficiency, quality products and service, as well as service excellence. So it's all about, productivity. But we want to be productive, we want to produce quality products and services, we want to be excellent in everything that we do. And how do we do it? We want to make sure that we have systems that are robust, that are in place. We have processes that are robust, that are in place to help us in doing the best that we can. So the mark of a successful business is positive results. And positive results are in the form of high productivity. Your team is producing high results. Everything that you're doing is productive, quality products, etc. Customer service as well, right? So that is typically the hallmark of a successful business, right? Productivity is there, quality is there, the sales are there, etc. So when we see positive results, of our efforts in the businesses as leaders, it really edifies and builds our confidence. It builds our self-esteem. to know that the products and services that you are putting your energy to are actually having a positive impact in the results, in the lives of the users, the end users, the clients, etc. So we become confident in our abilities, our knowledge, our skills, our insights, and then it then, spurs us on to be able to do more to impact others through our products and our services. So as a startup entrepreneur or a knowledge worker or an expert consultant, etc., this is where we need to intricately merge our knowledge, our skills, our insights with all the available technology out there in the existing, digital world that we're in. So this technology in digital marketing systems allows us to share our knowledge through digital platforms and products that reach our target market globally. So we're not just limited to one geographic origin when we offer our products and services by leveraging on existing technology. So I'm talking now to the issue of systems. Remember, at this level of consciousness, we're talking about how do you attain success, success in your business through leveraging systems and processes to help you become an efficient organization, an efficient business. So leverage systems and technology that is existing, very well. And there is a course where I go into this much deeper. And so I'm not going to go into it here in great detail, but leverage technology and make sure that you use technology to help you expand and have a global reach in business. And then as someone that is working for another company, a professional or an entrepreneur, make sure you have robust systems and processes and technology to enable you to improve your team's performance as well. It could be an IT system that you can introduce in your team. It could be just even processes of how to do work in a more efficient way. If you're a team leader, you could also find ways that you standardize a lot of things such that, and you even make use of knowledge management practices to make sure that even when team members leave your team, the knowledge that they're living with does not exit with the person that is leaving. So find a way of systematizing all the knowledge that people that have worked in your department, that they're able to write it down in a folder somewhere that is going to be accessed by whoever will take over that role. Do you understand? So find a way to leverage systems to ensure that you are efficient. There's always high productivity, because you don't want this thing that when someone leaves your team or two people resign from your team, you have to start from scratch, because now the new person coming in is quite green. They have to learn your systems. They have to learn the way of doing things in your team. Whereas if you've got a storage where everybody who's in a particular role needs to write systematically what they're doing and how everything is done in their role. That way, even if they leave as a physical person, they exit, their knowledge and the know-how on how to do certain things doesn't live with them. It stays with the organization. It forms part of institutional memory to make sure that your performance is always remaining in top form. So let me take a pause at this point. I want to give you time to integrate the levels 1 up to the 3, and then in the next clip we will move on to level 4 of consciousness, which is transformation. That is the heart of the things. That's where all of these lower levels integrate. So I want us to take a pause at this point, and then I'll see you in the next clip.